everyone! Today we are making a very delicious, authentic ciabatta. It turns out fluffy with lots of air in the dough and a beautiful pattern on the ciabatta itself. Well, in general, everything as it should be. In fact, making them is very simple. I'll show you now. As I mentioned, lately I've been into baking bread. Just for the soul, for myself, for the aroma, for the mood. I just like it. I love dough in general. Working with yeast dough is simply unparalleled for me. And it's time to make ciabattas. So today we will be making them from this. The recipe yields from 6 to 8 pieces, depending on the size you want to make them. It's easy to make, it's not difficult. Don't think that yeast dough is super complicated. It's simple. Watch how I do it. Try it once and you'll succeed. Let's start with the starter. Take dry or fresh yeast, whichever you have found. Pour them in here, and also take some sugar. We don't add salt yet, only sugar. Add 2 to 3 spoonfuls of flour here, and a little water from the total amount as well. The water should be either at room temperature or just slightly warm. Mine is at room temperature. Mix it all together to make a kind of porridge. You see, you can even add a little more so that it resembles pancake batter. And leave it for about 15 minutes so that it starts to rise and the dough begins to work. The yeast starts to work. Mix everything well with a spoon like this. Now, choose a bright, warm and inviting sunny windowsill in your comfortable, cozy and peaceful room. If you've decided to bake in the evening and the sun has already set, then just leave it on the kitchen table. Let it sit. No one will disturb it for about 15 minutes and it will gently rise. I carefully and thoroughly mix with a spoon like this to completely dissolve the yeast with the flour and combine all the ingredients together evenly. You can leave the spoon right here. Take some plastic wrap, cover it like this, and wait for about 15 minutes. As soon as the cap starts to form and it begins to rise, it means the starter is ready. My starter rose in literally 15 minutes. I have a balcony windowsill like this. I place it there in the sunlight. See, perfect. Everything is... Use a large, deep bowl with high sides to ensure the dough has ample room to rise properly. So, carefully pour all the water we have prepared into this bowl here. Next, add a pinch of salt here and mix thoroughly to combine. Now gradually add the flour to create a fluffy, light dough, not one that is overloaded with too much flour. Firstly, it's better to sift the flour once or twice before using. Secondly, add the flour in several stages. Look, we added it the first time, see, mixed it. And now the second time, I divide it into 2 parts. Mix it well like this. Just, you see, with a spoon, I'm doing it. You don't need a mixer, nothing is needed. If you have a mixer, use it to mix, but if you don't have one, it's not the most essential, so to speak, tool for making ciabatta. So, we mix it. The flour needs to be incorporated very well, because the dough is soft, and we will knead it, well, a bit differently than Klim is used to. Yes, usually when working with yeast dough. So look, we mixed it like this. Remove it. Take a silicone whisk or spatula and make sure to moisten it with water. Leave the dough for about half an hour to 40 minutes. Gather everything from the sides like this. And leave it like this. Cover with plastic wrap or a towel and leave it on the kitchen table like this. And wait for half an hour. The dough has risen like this now. Take water and a spatula, use a silicone one. You can do this with hands moistened with water. Well, as practice shows, it's better to do the first and second lift with a spatula. So, the dough, just like this, very gently and slowly from the sides to the center. Lift from the sides and pull to the center. This is how we usually knead the dough in a traditional manner. But to make the ciabatta extremely porous and airy, extremely porous with lots of holes, and light, we do it this way in order to retain the air and maintain the lightness within the dough. And also, the dough is noticeably sticky and tacky because there's a lot of moisture due to the high moisture content, which is significantly more than the amount used when we usually make other pastries. That's why we do it this way. I've tried different methods. I tried just using my hands. But I really like the silicone spatula. So look, now I'll show you with my hands. Also dip your hands in water. Don't be afraid of the water, it's absolutely fine. Lift the dough and fold it like this. You see, in half, it just hangs down. When it hangs nicely like this, we fold it like this, turn it over, and do it a second time. So this is how we very slowly, carefully, and gently fold the dough. Indeed, that was the first kneading. We'll do each subsequent one every 15 to 20 minutes. So look, cover it with plastic wrap and leave it for 15-20 minutes. The dough has risen. So 15 minutes have passed. We make our hands wet again. You see, bubbles have already appeared on the dough. This means that the dough is already preparing and there is a lot of air inside. So with wet hands, we lift and stretch the dough like this. We don't tear it, but stretch and fold it. Then, just a little more, wet your hands in water like this and turn it. We do this one more time. From 4 sides, we stretch the dough like this and fold it. So, in total, we do this kneading process 4 times approximately every 15 to 20 minutes. Look closely. 2, and from the 4th side. So I do it like this. And then I carefully lift the dough. Watch closely. Okay, once more. Moist hands. This is how the dough sags. We fold it. While it's stretching, I do this. You'll feel that the dough no longer wants to stretch. Therefore, as long as it allows, we stretch it, seal it with plastic wrap, and leave it for another 15 minutes. In total, I end up folding it 4 times every 15-20 minutes. So the dough has risen for the 3rd time. Look, you can see it's already quite beautiful. It becomes glossy in appearance. You see, it reflects light well, it's not matte, and there are already many, many bubbles. Again, hands in the water. So, the water, I forgot to mention, should not be cold. It should be at room temperature. Repeat the process the same way. So this is already the 3rd time. See how well it stretches. Lift and fold. Lift and fold. So look, I do such foldings 4 times every 15 to 20 minutes. This was my 3rd time. 1 more to go. Now the 4th folding, look at how glossy and nice the dough has become. Hands traditionally in the water, like this. And we fold for the 4th time. So I will fold for the 4th time like this. See how many there are. Bubbles. When you fold, these bubbles are visible. 3 to 4 times or even more, as long as the dough stretches. See, it stretches. The more air, the fluffier it will be. And the ciabattas will be very porous. I did the 4th folding, cover it with plastic wrap, set it aside, and what do we do next? So, the dough has risen for the last time. Now we preheat the oven to the maximum temperature. I don't use any special equipment. Just a regular baking sheet, which I leave in the oven. The oven needs to be well preheated. I heat it to the maximum. It will take about 20 minutes to heat up, just while the dough is proofing. Now my dough, I set it like this, with top and bottom heat and convection. If you don't have this setting, just top and bottom heat will do. Any of these modes that you have will work. So we preheat the oven to the maximum. On a separate table, I prepared a towel, a waffle one, and parchment paper. The parchment needs to be cut into strips like this, about 15 centimeters in width, like this, Cut the parchment with scissors, or with a large sharp knife like this to get strips like these. Look, like this. And this, we are preparing the place where our ciabattas will rise before baking. Take a roll like this. I have foil. You can use plastic wrap, for example. Take a piece of parchment, place it, and then take a piece of towel like this. Move it to form the first little boat. The other pieces of parchment will be waiting for us here. I'll show you what we'll do now. Now remove the wrap. Look how well the dough has risen. It's all bubbly. Now onto the floured table. There should be a lot of flour like this. It's better to remove the excess flour later, but make sure there's enough now. You don't need to touch the dough with your hands. Just carefully and gently turn the bowl over and patiently wait for the dough to... Look how beautiful it is. It comes out on its own like this. It just falls out like that. The way it fell out is how it fell out. No, need to knead it anymore. See how much air there is. Now take some flour and sprinkle it all over the dough like this, so that the whole dough is covered in flour. The sides like these look like this. Take a dessert knife. I use a dessert knife because I don't have any other tools here. Cut the dough in half lengthwise. The dough, it's very delicate, so I do it this way. I help a little with my hand. Look, I separate it like this. Use a dessert knife because a regular knife will cut the table. And you don't need to cut the table. See, look, we move it aside. Now I have 2 halves of the dough. I divide each into 4 parts. Look, like this one. But look, what a beauty. 3 par. These will be our ciabattas. They have risen very well. The dough has rested. Look. Now what do? Take each piece. First of all, flour. Sprinkle it. Here on the edges where we cut so that the hands don't stick. Carefully lift the ciabatta like this onto your hands and shake it a little so that the excess flour falls off. Transfer our ciabatta into the prepared boat. Look, what a beauty it turned out to be. Move it like this. Place the second one next to it. Look, I'll take the edge. Sprinkle it with flour once more like this. Lift it onto your hands. The dough is so light, almost weightless. Like this, so that the excess flour falls off. And place it here in the boat. Like this. Here, we will form the next 2 ciabattas. Look, gently and carefully roll them over, giving them a bit of shape. When all the ciabattas are placed, lift the towel itself and tuck another roll here. I took parchment paper. I don't even cover them, just leave them for another 15 minutes. I'm waiting for the oven to heat up. Well, the remaining flour, see, it's all clean. We didn't need the dough here. Put it back in the container where we store the flour. Look how nicely the ciabattas have risen. I came up with this thing with these parchment sheets, so we don't have to transfer them anymore. So that this fluffiness and bubbliness doesn't go away, we'll bake them right on this parchment. So we wait for the oven to fully heat up and then we'll bake. Look how awesome they are. The oven is well heated and I preheat the oven along with the baking sheet on which I will bake. I carefully hold it with a towel. I place it on the door like this. And look what I'm doing. We transfer the ciabattas here. Look, now the second one. I lift the previous one like this, so that one slightly supports the other. Look, like this. We put it in the oven and bake at maximum temperature for 15 minutes. Then we reduce the temperature to 200 or 220 degrees and bake for another 10 minutes. Look how the ciabattas rise high and fluffy in the oven. This flour on top spreads a little because the dough itself rises. It creates a beautiful pattern. In general, they are simply exquisite. You can see how fluffy they are. 15 minutes have passed at maximum temperature. So look, my oven bakes well and quickly. They are golden, browned even, and not burnt. Yours might be lighter if your oven bakes less than mine. So you need to judge by the ciabattas themselves. I will do it this way. Now I will reduce the temperature to 220 degrees. If your oven burns, you can set it to 200, and I will put them in for another 10 minutes. But there were times when I baked in this oven and set it for 5 minutes. Make sure they don't burn, just that they have a nice golden color, and take them out. Look at how beautiful the ciabattas turned out. Look at the beautiful pattern, a beautiful golden color. They are not burnt, nothing. Watch your oven in the last 5-10 minutes to see how much time you need. So now let's take out the ciabattas. Place them on a rack and don't cut them, let them cool down. They turn out really great in parchment. Here are the ciabattas. The ciabattas have cooled down a bit like this. I can hold them in my hands. Ideally, they should rest for at least 40 minutes, but naturally, no one can wait. They are like this, you see, crunchy. Now, let's listen to how it crunches. Listen. Do you hear what a crust? So, it's still barely warm. So it's best when they cool completely. Well, like bread. Look at how the ciabatta turned out inside. Look at how porous it is, how many holes it has. In general, it's really cool when we can see in the cross-section how well it rose, how much air was in the dough. This is real ciabatta. So look, I make these small ones just like for a little sandwich. My Nastya loves it with butter. In general, it turns out to be an ideal little sandwich. I make ciabattas in one batch, 8 pieces. They disappear quickly, and then I bake new ones. You can bake not only with white flour, but with whole grain or mix it. Bake with yeast or sourdough. Well, in general, that was the recipe for today. Let's do it. Be sure to make it, and we'll try it. I want you to see how incredibly soft they are and how beautifully and effortlessly they rise up. I have exactly the same recipe, but, boss, with the addition of a variety of whole grain flour and various seeds inside, such as flax and chia. If you want, I can make a video of that recipe. Just let me know, so let's try it. They are amazing when dried, very tasty. They open up like this and have lots of holes. Make them from this recipe, I get 8 pieces. So in general, jot this down in your notebook and be sure to make it. And when you do make it, let me know how it turned out for you. How your family liked it. Also, on my channel, there is a very delicious French onion bread. Be sure to check it out and make it. That was the recipe for today. Like, share this video and subscribe to my channel. All the best to you. Healthy bye.